Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro, and it's time to review A House of Dynamite, directed by Catherine Bigelow. This continues Catherine Bigelow's string of political filmmaking, and it's her first film since 2017's Detroit. The film is about how the US responds to an incoming nuclear weapon that has been launched directly at the country. And the film is essentially a pulse-pounding thriller. I would call this a horror film because there were moments when I felt absolute dread, pit in my stomach. A lot of the emotions that horror attempts to inspire are very present here. I mean, this film overall really worked on me. Because when you get hit with that oh no moment, I feel like that's all the film has to do in a way to really do its job. But it's also very detailed about how this chain of command works. What infrastructure is in place to respond to this kind of crisis. And we really feel every minute ticking away, as this is a very time-sensitive issue. And beyond just accepting a potential doomsday scenario, there's a lot of debate as to what happens next. And that's where I found the film really interesting. The structure is also interesting here. There's 3 chapters. Each of them go through the point from which the weapon was essentially launched and then to the point where it makes impact.
It seems like the chapters go up the chain of command.
Yes, and you get closer and closer to essentially the White House and like the person who eventually is going to make that decision as to how to respond. Now, this structure is not going to work for everybody. A lot of people I've talked to have accused this film of having diminishing returns each time we visit the beginning of a new chapter, where it feels like maybe we're just kind of treading familiar territory. Like we already know that we're scared of this thing and we already know we're having this debate. Like we just had that debate over there. Personally, for me, I was not bothered because I thought each chapter was dissecting something different. And if you are attuned to that and you care about that and you're not just like kind of giving up on the film, I think there is something rich for you. And I do feel like the screenplay was more rich than some people are giving it credit for. Some people seem to think it's very just simplistic. It's just trying to scare the shit out of you. But I would say it's also looking at many different parts of our infrastructure and our system, many points of failure that would lead up to something like this becoming so catastrophic or becoming even worse. And all of them deserve to be examined. Because I think the film is trying to leave the audience with something a little more than just terror and dread. If you were to show this to the right people, like the officials in charge, it might actually inspire opinions and conversation for how this sort of response and preparedness could actually be improved, and how we might need to reshape our institutions to respond to something like this, or just have the conversation at a very deep level. So I feel like the film is pointed in that regard. Like I think it seems to care about, hey, what are we gonna do? And it's up to the audience to have that debate and to, push for potentially, I don't know. I guess it doesn't really
military budget. Like I don't know.
I don't know what kind of solutions it would push you toward. Maybe it's not practical for most audience members, but it did feel like there was commentary.
I don't know. The movie almost left me with the feeling like there's not really much that we could do to have a better situation. Part of me did feel like this was a doom scroll. And yes, it could inspire people to care more about this and to realize that this is an urgent matter. But an article could also suffice to dissect that. Maybe it wouldn't get as much attention. I guess what I'm saying here is that when I think about maybe Zero Dark 30 or The Hurt Locker, those were kind of character studies in a sense, as much as they were about the political climate around them. Maybe if this movie had another layer to it where it felt like it was also revealing about, human nature or something of that sort, it could have brought me in on an extra level. But as it is, I thought it was really thrilling and often terrifying, and it really had me on the edge of my seat. And I also agree with you that it did dive into different aspects of the government and our decision-making and the decisions that would have to be made, where I didn't think that it was just like repeating itself the whole movie. However, you're probably going to feel the most fear in that first act when you experience it for the first time. Most people that I've heard from seem put off by the ending because I guess there's a lack of resolution. I thought the ending was fitting. I don't think that this kind of movie should leave you feeling anything but unresolved. At the same time, maybe there was a way to have a moment with a character or something of that sort that could have given the audience a little more of an ending, but while again, not resolving anything.
We don't even have a character that exists throughout all chapters in a significant way. So the script does have a little bit of a problem from an entertainment perspective and in terms of giving an audience what they're expecting. And I was in the press screening for this film. You were in the public screening, but there were many audible reactions when the film cut to black. Like, wait, that's it? What? And there was even laughter, like, ha, 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 what? Oh, wow, that's the ending. And it was kind of bad. Like, I was like, oh, no, that's not what you want to hear from a room full of critics. Like, I thought those people weren't on the same wavelength with feeling like, yeah, this is the ending. Like, this is enough. They didn't feel like it was enough. I did talk to a critic who did have that reaction, but then thought about it. And because it inspired more introspection, decided it was an appropriate ending. But for many people, like, even if it's just unsatisfying on that level of like, I wanted more, I think that is a knock against the film. Like, but again, and I'm saying that as somebody who did not have a problem with the ending, but I also kind of expected it. Like, I knew that this is the sort of direction the film is going. I knew what story it was telling. I wasn't surprised. I actually found when I was talking to other press after the film, the conversations were more around whether this approach worked, whether this sort of 3-story structure worked, looping back in time and then restarting the whole entire ticking bomb. And we were having that conversation instead of the more prescient conversation about what the film wants you to think about. I do feel like this film has some problems, but for me, it really worked.
I found that it really worked as a thriller and as a movie to scare the shit out of you about a topic that you probably, could afford to be scared about. I don't know, like, what to do with it that much other than to just kind of, like, sit here and be scared about it. I think maybe some more character focus throughout, or maybe trying to tie together some motifs, like, with each character.
Yeah, maybe building some more meaning.
Yeah,
in the
maybe that was lacking for me a bit. As much as this is an ensemble piece with so many recognizable faces, not that many of the performances left a strong impression on me. Probably if there was any, it would be Idris Elba.
Yeah, maybe Rebecca Ferguson. Actually, I may have liked Jared Harris the most in this, actually. He might have been the standout for me. I thought his anecdote was quite powerful. I mean, they do try to give the characters backstory, but it's sort of like what you would expect. I mean, someone has a daughter at home and they're, trying to get in touch with them.
They kind of come and go,
But I think those were important. I think the editing here was actually really strong. I didn't feel a minute of this film lagging in terms of pacing. It did feel very fast. There's a lot of people talking over each other, a lot of characters, but the way it wove them together didn't make me feel overwhelmed. And I often felt like the editing let you sit in the tension of a scene without hurtling you through it too fast. The score is also very helpful for weaving the stories together and kind of like ebbing and flowing you through the different emotions that the characters are feeling. Like sometimes it's high tension and other times it's this kind of melancholic sadness.
But the elephant in the room with the score is that it really sounds like they said, we heard what you did with Conclave. We would like that again.
Yeah.
And he kind of he reused a lot of the stuff from Conclave. Like,
the pieces of the score that are not recognizable are really strong. And then the pieces that are sound like Conclave. And it's kind of annoying.
I mean, if I hadn't seen Conclave, I would be like, yeah, that was a good score. And the sound design is very good. It really plays with the chaotic ambience of the rooms to ratchet up the anxiety and makes it feel like it's of blockbuster proportion sometimes.
Yeah. In terms of Catherine Bigelow's direction, she kind of returns to that documentarian style of filmmaking where the camera feels a little unplanned and spontaneous. I think it works for this film. Some people noted this felt a little like TV to them. I'm not on that level, but I kind of do get it.
It did feel very clean and digital looking.
Yeah.
Without much grit or texture to it. I didn't mind the cinematography. I think the cinematography is mainly working through the motion of the camera. And, Barry Ackroyd is great at that. That's what he's an expert at. I also thought there were some title cards in this movie that just felt kind of very After Effects, very Netflix movie too.
I thought the drama was mostly believable, but there is a scene on a private jet where the dialogue started feeling clunky to me and I was like, uh-oh. So I'm a little nervous about how people are going to respond to it because I'm on the side that I really liked it, but there's a lot of mixed opinions on this. And even though the Metacritic score or the Rotten Tomatoes score are really high right now, I do feel like that you're going to see a shift. And I think Letterboxd is more indicative of like the general consensus, what that will be from audiences and filmgoers. But some people are loving it. I mean, we have to acknowledge that some people think it's, a masterful film.
I haven't talked to very many.
I haven't talked to
even
any,
like hearing people chat about around me at New York Film Festivals. Just like, oh yeah, I wanted to really love it, but like the ending, I just didn't like love the ending. I would give it a 7 out of 10.
I would give this an 8.
In many ways, this is like the kind of urgent political film that the Academy may want to eat up. You could nominate the script. You could nominate the editing. Perhaps the sound, perhaps the score. But I am worried about its chances overall because, like we said, it seems like people are not that into the ending and not loving it as much as they wanted to.
Yeah, it's not a slam dunk. It's also like, how long are you going to spend pondering, nukes after you watch this film? Like, I do feel like it doesn't have that much staying power, and I'm kind of leaning against that it gets nominations when the Oscars come around.
Yeah, I mean, I've quite liked Catherine Bigelow's past 3 films, including Detroit, more than this one. And it seems like every single category that it could get into, it's trying to get into the last slot. Like, every category that I could imagine, it's number 5 in that category, in editing, and scroll away, whatever it is. And despite the large cast, I would be surprised if it got a casting or a SAG Ensemble nomination, because I don't think the performances stand out that much. And it does feel like Catherine Bigelow has tackled this before, and therefore I'd be like really surprised to see her get a director nomination for this.
The film goes down really smooth, and like, maybe with the exception of the ending, like, it works well as a thriller. People won't be like turning off their TVs. It's kind of an easy watch. It's actually pretty short. It flies by. It's well paced. We talked about this in the Jay Kelly review. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, like, I feel like
Netflix films and which one is in front. I can't really tell you.
It could squeeze into the Critics' Choice, the AFI, the PGA 10. Like, I could see that.
Yeah.
I just don't know, man.
It would be really helpful if there were performances you had to nominate.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I do wonder if just the storytelling structure, like not following a single character throughout the story, kind of does hurt it in terms of really becoming one of people's favorite films, like when they really connect with. Because you can kind of intellectualize it and appreciate it, but is it a film that you love? I'm not sure.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
What would you make your house out of?